fiber of the community, and we have had some very accomplished folks working in this area and have done some really good work. I support historic preservation, but with some caveats. Number one, I don't think we can determine a historical structure just based on the fact that it may be X years old. Structures are all different. They have different basic fiber that they're made up from. They've been used for different purposes, and I think it's really important to look at the structure rather than trying to apply a lot of blanket rules to every structure. The current powers, I'm not very knowledgeable about the current powers of the Historic Commission right now, but I think they seem to have some significant authority, and I think that is very important that they do have that authority.
I certainly support historic preservation. I sometimes wonder where we go with it. I have, in my lifetime, refurbished antique furniture. And it comes to a point sometimes with these homes, the same as a piece of furniture. How much do you put into it before you lose the integrity of that piece? It just becomes another home. So I think we need to look real close at what we're doing with it. And I think they do a fairly good job. And I think we need a few more rules and regulations, maybe some support from the city. The final word really comes down to historic preservation at the point. They got a lot of rules there. And some I think they need to switch in order for us to keep some of these places that are really historic for city.
I don't know, I'm not sure what, I guess, amplified power through the Historic Preservation Commission. I'm not sure what that means. Obviously, it's an idea that's worth looking into. I think now they have a profound influence in our city of education, I think, and they do tours and make recommendations. I just was reading, I think today, the Czech Village has an organization too that looks at some, I think, zoning and building requirements for preservation. So I think they have a real profound role to play in this community, and I can learn a lot from that part of our city, that organization, and so.
To amplify the powers of the Historic Preservation Commission, I believe they currently can do some things like place 30 to 60-day hold on demolition building projects, as well as make recommendations to the council. I kind of agree with Ralph in the sense that we can't save every building, but I would like to see if we choose to say that we can save the building, what are we going to use that building for? Is it for historical reference? Are we repurposing that building for dwelling spaces? So I believe there's a grocery store, an old grocery store downtown, or a furniture store, the Furniture Mart store. And there's a plan that they're going to use that huge, beautiful building for condos. And I would like to see affordable housing go into our historic buildings like that.
When historic buildings and neighborhoods are torn down or they're allowed to deteriorate, a part of our past disappears forever. And I think that all of us sitting here recognize that. When that happens, we lose history that helps us know who we are, and we lose opportunities to live and work in the kinds of interesting and attractive surroundings that other buildings, older buildings, can provide to us. In recent years, the historic preservation has also begun to be viewed in cities and towns as a means of economic development and urban renewal. I challenge you to take a look at our Paramount Theater, City Hall, our former Cedar Rapids Community School District leadership, and I support the commission, and as has been spoken to, I believe that they have a 60-day stay. And again, I support the commission, I support historic preservation.
I would not support expanding the powers of the Historic Preservation Commission. The reason for that is, bless their hearts, they do bring forward many cases where they want to preserve a building. Well, the city itself is out promoting infill development, and we're promoting the reuse
whatever has gone on before in our city that certainly gives us a way to look back on our city. For example, like the Paramount Theater. But, and as a city planning commissioner, we struggle with that many times with respect to when developers want to come in or if we want to take down, if somebody wants to take down a building just to develop something. And then a lot of times, unfortunately, it's just tearing down a building that is old and historic with historic value, and it just turns into parking lots. Well, if those buildings can be held up, I would rather have those held up rather than turned into a parking lot. But in terms of maintaining, yes, it is going to require something different. People do have to want to maintain those buildings as well. And as far as the powers go, I would support that.
Thank you. This next round will begin with Mr. McBrain, and it has to do with traffic. Should we continue to use the traffic camera? And if we do, what should the money from fines be used for?
I'm a full supporter of the traffic cameras, a lot of the traveling. I have noticed lately that I don't have people running red lights in front of me. And it has slowed down the traffic on 380 going through town. I mean, it's just something that we really need out there. That's why the state wants to stick their nose in. I have no idea, but it should be left up to the city. And I think we are putting our cameras where they're needed. Where the money goes to now is the police department. It doesn't come from the taxpayers, so a lot of things they have bought, what they did, what they're keeping up to date. And it's one of the finest police forces in the state of Iowa, and I think this money still go to them. Thank you.
I think at this point, I would support the cameras. I wouldn't support building any more cameras in the city. I also understand the Big Brother mindset that I think is equal value, because that's a kind of a very strong value. I think on the interstate, I think the problem I have is you can't really see those signs. In fairness to people that come through, I think those signs should be marked a lot better. I also think it should be more accessible to the website where the money goes. My understanding was a large percentage of that money went for pensions on firemen, and I thought police pensions, I may be wrong, but some people said roads, and that makes sense too, but the pension part of it really brings home to me that a good use of the money, so.
As a recipient of a red light camera ticket, I do support them. I do believe that they have built awareness of your surroundings and awareness of your actions. I do question and or wonder about the graduated scale for the fines. I think if you run a red light, no matter how fast you're going through it, you should pay the same dollar amount because you still ran a red light. I would want to understand more of how that scale works and why it was put in place. The funding does go to offset the rising cost of pensions within the police department budget, and potentially, we could use those for Amber Alerts. If anyone watches like CSI or stuff like that, it is a little Big Brother, but there is good that could come out of them, and I do support them.
I have not been the recipient of one. However, my car has received one. So I find it interesting. It goes with the car. However, I agree with them. On the S curve, we have seen, and it has been proven out, that it's saving lives and it's keeping people safe. And I think that is the important piece. It brings awareness, it slows us down. So I support these. And I do understand where the money goes, and it does go back to the police department. So I guess right now, unless there's other funding options that citizens want to bring forward, or where they believe that money should go, and they have a better understanding of what to do with it, then I support where it is right now, and I do support it.
I want to go on record officially. My wife was going 1 mile an hour faster when she got her ticket than I was going when I got my ticket. There is just no question that the
It will force you. You start looking at your speedometer and going, oh my God, I better slow down. So I do support the traffic cameras. I know, I'm sure it saves lives. I'm sure it's done a number of things. In the beginning, I think that, like anything else, it's kind of that, like, big brother and, oh, what else are they going to do, and that kind of thing. But I think it is a worthwhile endeavor. And as far as I understand, what the money goes to, I support that. It's going to the police department, and for all the reasons that it's going there, I do support that.
Traffic cameras are a big topic of conversation, and I have a little different approach to it. I think there is some justification for traffic cameras. I would be in favor of a process where we allow traffic cameras to be installed where the police department suggests that records are carefully kept both before and after in terms of safety. And if there is an improvement because the camera's there, we keep it. If there is no improvement in safety or reduction in accidents, we get rid of it. Regarding where does the money go? It currently goes to the police department. Enterprise funds in the city are funds that can support themselves. The police department is funded from the general fund, and I think the revenue from the camera should go into the general fund.
Thank you. The next round of questions, we will start with Mr. Fry, and this has to do with background checks. Do you support the required background checks on tenants, and how will background checks for rental housing affect availability of affordable housing?
Well, at this point, since it's an ordinance, I support it. I suppose if I had my vote, it would have been a voluntary background check. The question is will it affect rental housing? Well, I'm not sure. That's going to remain to be seen. I think it's a good question. I think this ordinance is brand new, obviously, in this community, so there could be a number of areas where it may have to be changed, it may have to be looked at. What's fair, how it's affecting those situations. So I think it's really new, and we just need to keep an open mind and be willing to make changes if we have those kinds of problems.
This is in reference to Chapter 2 and 29, the new nuisance abatement code that we passed. I support background checks, but if we are going to make it mandatory for landlords and property management agencies to have background checks, I do not necessarily support us telling them that they have to pay for it. We are also not holding them accountable for making those decisions just because, let me backtrack. Just because we're saying that you have to have a background check does not mean that you cannot deny tenantship to a renter. It is your choice to rent to someone, but the city can hold you accountable due to that background check. How will that affect rental housing? Honestly, I don't know yet. We still have a couple months to go, and we'll see how it goes. But I do support more collaboration with local landlords and property management agencies to work on this issue in the future.
Background checks at a reduced rate are just a piece of Chapter 22 and 29. And first of all, what was disturbing to me is one of the things that people were talking about, well, this is going to move problems from one area of our city to another area of our city. When talking with our neighborhood officers, they don't see it that way. They see this as an all-encompassing city approach to move forward. So I guess we can sit around and we can do nothing, or we can move forward. It's kind of how I see this. I think that there are things to consider as we move forward with this. I think that there's several moving pieces in play, and that we'll be speaking to those as we move forward. But this is on the books. It started October 1. So I'm speaking a little bit more than just the background checks, but I think it's bigger than just the background checks that what we're talking about. And again, the council's made a decision, and as a new member of the council, I'll work with the decisions that have been made, and we'll evaluate, and we'll see if any changes are necessary.
I certainly do support the background checks, and I support landlords paying for. I'm a landlord. I look forward to, when I have some vacancies, to using the services that are being supplied, and I think it's like $9 for a background check. You know, the issue is not whether we want to somehow discriminate against somebody. What we want to do is put the responsibility on the landlord to know who his tenants are. He can rent to anybody that he wants to, but we want to put a stop to the apartment complexes that have 800 police calls in a year. We're paying for that. All of a sudden we're giving them private security. That's nuts, and we shouldn't be doing it. And this ordinance is going to put a stop to that.
I do support background checks. Like any other employer or business, it is up to that employer, that business, to run the background checks and to pay for that. And so I don't have an issue with that. In terms of having those background checks for tenants, I do, at first I felt a little odd about it because I wanted to make sure that this was something that was going to happen throughout the city, and in fact it is going to happen throughout the city. And so, therefore it's not concentrated in one area of town. That's what I'm referring to. And, but we do want to have, just like hiring anybody, you know, they're not hired, they're tenants. But we do want to make sure that we have good tenants in our places, in our homes, around us, and affordable housing. How will that affect it? Again, we're going to have to wait and see, but I hope that it would keep the upkeep of buildings and those kinds of things.
The background check, I think, were a small part of a bigger ordinance, and the question obviously was on background checks. But first of all, I think the ordinance was absolutely the right thing to do. I think it's a step in the right direction. As I'm out putting up yard signs and knocking on doors, I've had an opportunity to talk to several landlords, and the good landlords are doing them now. And the ones that are hiring those that we're trying to address may continue to rent to the wrong people, even though they're forced to do a background check. So I don't think it's a fix-all, but I do think it's a step in the right direction.
This is absolutely a step in the right direction when it comes to the citizens in the neighborhoods. It really takes a burden off the taxpayer away because you get a better clientele in the homes they're renting to. You have less police calls, all that down the line. Makes it a safer neighborhood. It makes it so grandma can walk her grandchild down the street because we are eliminating some of the problems where you have 10, 12, 14 people living in a two-bedroom house. And this is something that needs to stop. That's why we have such a distancing problem in Washington Heights area. And I believe eventually we'll get that cured. That's been another one of my pet peeves for several years. This has been on the works for 6-7 years now. I believe it's bringing fruit, but it's another one of those ordinances that it's a work in progress, and we will actually have to tweak it down the line to make it work. I believe we can.
Thank you. This next round, we will start with Mr. Brown, and this has to do with retail development. How do we attract more retail businesses to Cedar Rapids?
So how do we attract? I believe that I know an issue that I wanted to do just because for a community to be strong and vibrant, it usually means to have a strong and vibrant downtown that has diverse opportunities to engage with the city on different levels, and retail is one of those. I know that there's a whole bunch of demographic factors into it, but to get like the big Nordstroms or Macy's, I would like to see some type of boutique or rack store downtown where people can go and shop. You know, we have the Nouveau area now, but I also want to see small business startups that could be retail inclined. Retail is a hard business to get into or to start up. There is a large overhead, but we do have some million feet of office space, I think, that's open within Cedar Rapids. Why can't we convert some of that and offer some of our incentives for those type of programs and businesses to come to Cedar Rapids?
We can expand local businesses, cultivate entrepreneurship,